a guest looked at me with this kind of like, you made this? And that was like my heroin. That was like the high I've chased forever,
Right.
that moment. It was essentially, I was putting myself through culinary school. I opened Playground, which was in November of 2011. So keep in mind, waiter in February of 2010, food truck owner in June of 2010, and restaurant owner November 2011.
Welcome to the Driven Leaders Podcast. It's John Patterson from the Patterson Auto Group, and thanks so much for joining us today, where we talk to driven leaders. And a driven leader is somebody that is driven to do more. They're exceptional in their business, but they're exceptional in going above and beyond. And today I am honored to have Jason Quinn with me, the owner of Detention, Playground, a great story that I'm looking forward to sharing with our listeners, our watchers. And Jason, welcome.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Thanks for taking time out of your busy pickleball day.
Yeah. Well, no pickleball today, but as a 3-time Mazda purchaser from this very establishment, I felt the need to come do the podcast when called. So,
well, you one, we appreciate you as a customer big time, but I just appreciate all that you have done. And my wife Julie and I have gotten to know you quite a bit over the last 5 to 10 years. But we find your story so fascinating. Fascinating on so many levels, and I really don't want to get into it, but kind of walk us through, where you're from, a little bit of your backstory before we get into the whole restaurateur food business. So tell us.
Yeah, so I was born in Atlanta. I lived there for all of 6 months, and I said to my mom, "It's too hot, and there's too many strip clubs here," and she thought that was a very astute observation. And we decided to, they decided to move to Dana Point.
Yep.
Lived basically in Orange County, Fullerton, Irvine for the majority of my life. I did live for 2 years in Stockholm from 13 to 15, which is a very cool experience. Very defining as I look back at, who I am and how I got here and whatnot. And then I went to Santa Barbara for college, 4 years. I have a history degree, of which I've used exactly 0 seconds of my professional career. And yeah, that's my story up until, my professional journey in restaurants.
I did not know that you were a Santa Barbara guy, so that is good to know. My sister Lisa's a Santa Barbara guy. I've got a ton of family members that are Santa Barbara folks, so that's good to know.
The Gauchos are good people.
The Gauchos are great people. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how Stockholm plays into the food experience, because at some point in time, you finished up school and you said to yourself, history isn't going to be part of my program. I love food, or walk me through.
I went to college as a chemistry major.
Okay.
And I went because we remember that moment, 16, 17, pick a major, and it's like, at that time, chemistry is what I enjoyed. Mm-hmm. And I went to school as a chem student. I really knew I was never going to be a chemist. Mm-hmm. And when I came home from chem lab one night, Emerald Lagasse was making a brie and blue cheese quesadilla with pear and brown sugar compote. And I'm watching it with my roommate, and I was like, I can make that. Bullshit, you've never cooked anything, like you can't make that. And I'm like, you are right. And in a vacuum, it's a challenging concept to make the entire thing, but every one of those steps I just watched this guy do as he's talking to a crowd. Like, no one step was too hard. You know what I mean? Yeah. And like, yes, okay, like it's, I gotta buy these things, and I gotta know how to work cornstarch into pears and brown sugar and make that, but I just watched it happen.
Yeah.
I didn't have to read about it. I didn't have to guess. Like, I just do that until it looks like this, and you'll be good. And when I first made that dish, it was for a dinner party that my parents were having, and a guest looked at me with this kind of like, you made this? And that was like my heroin. That was like the high I've chased forever.
Right.
That moment. And that was when I knew I wanted to be a chef. And I told my parents I wanted to drop out. And they said, don't be a fucking idiot. Just get your degree, do whatever you want. And the real college value that my dad said to me is probably like the worst college value that you should really talk about. But he said, it's not about what you're learning. It's about a 4-year annoying task and showing that you can finish it. That's what it was. And the second he said that to me, I was like, oh, like, you don't actually care if I am learning this thing in this class, and I just have to finish this. And I literally, the money they gave me to buy textbooks, I bought cookbooks. The money they gave me to buy food, I bought food, and I had my friends pitch in, and I would make a meal. And like, I just, I wasn't running a restaurant, but I would have people come over, they would pitch in, I would make food. Like, that was what I did for college.
But I would argue that, I always say that 50% or less of what you learn in college is what you learn in the classroom. I believe way more than 50% is life lessons, right? Learning how to navigate people, not being under your parents' roof and all of that stuff. And so, whether it's a history degree, a chemistry degree, a law degree, I think that your ability to navigate it when you're not under mom and dad's roof, I think is part of it. And your navigation was, okay, I'm gonna start putting together dinner parties and yeah, I'm gonna get through college. But part of it is that life lesson that you had when you were away.
It was essentially, I was putting myself through culinary school while I was at college. I was trying to learn as much as I possibly could about food. I was lucky enough to date a girl at the time that just wanted to watch Good Eats, which is like the best cooking show of all time. And she also had a car. So when we would see something, we're like, oh my God, that looks so good. We could totally make that, but we don't have X. She could go get it. I could start work. You know what I mean? Like, it was a great opportunity to basically make anything. I tell the story of soft pretzels. I love a soft pretzel. And
who doesn't love a soft pretzel?
No. And like, let's be real. Your options for soft pretzels are Costco, Frozen, Ballpark, Sporting Game.
Yep.
Like, that's it, right?
Wetzel's Pretzels at the
I'm sure,
at the mall.
or the mall,
sure,
right?
Yeah.
But the second that you realize that you are 3 hours and 15 minutes away from the best soft pretzel you've ever had at any moment, it's like a very powerful thing to be like, you know what? I don't need to rely on the Wetzel's or the Auntie Anne's at the mall. Like, I can do this, and I can make it the way that if you like their garlic Parmesan one, but you go, man, I just wish there was more garlic. You could do that. You know what I mean? Like, you can do that. And that was like really empowering moment where I learned that like food was something that I could work with.
So you finish up in Santa Barbara, you realize that food, you've got your friends saying, hey, look, dude, you've got something here. You've got your parents' friends saying you got something here. So what did the next handful of years look like? Yeah,
so I was dead set that I was going to walk out of college and go straight to culinary school. And I get out of college, and my parents were quick to remind me that I didn't have any money, and I was like, oh, you're right. And they offered me the opportunity to live at home and work and then save the money to go to culinary school. So I started working at the Houstons in Irvine.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And I was making great money as a server there, really good. I worked there for 2 years. I learned some unbelievable fundamentals of front of house, service. They're such a well-run operation, Hillstone. They're so smart. They have, they're way better at restauranting than I am. Way better. I mean, a billion times better. I might be able to make one dish that's better, but like, they're just so good at.
They're process driven.
They're so good at all the things that hurt my brain to even think about. But I learned them. I learned, all of those things there. I took the things that I wanted. I left the things I didn't. And I was not your average waiter. Right. And there was a guest that picked up on the fact that I was not, just like everyone else. And I told them that I wanted to be a chef and I was trying to save up for culinary school. They offered me an opportunity to cook at their house. I did. There was a guest at the house who had a restaurant. He offered me a job at his restaurant to go cook. So I left the job serving. I went to cook there. I was there for like 2 months. It was a miserable experience. It was everything the opposite of Hillstone. It was a place that was just so willing to cater to the guests. There's 2 horror stories I'll recall for you. One was a Friday night where a guest wanted rack of lamb. We had none in the building, and I'm handed a credit card and told to run to Trader Joe's to get a rack of lamb. I'm in my fucking chef coat on a Friday night in line with the rack of lamb at 7:30. It's just like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
What am I doing? Like, I need to be at my station right now.
Right.
And I am like, this isn't helping the restaurant. Sure, we're making one guest, but like now they're waiting 45 minutes to an hour for it. Like, are we really helping? And
are we giving our best rack of lamb?
We're not. Yeah. We're not. We're just buying a Trader Joe's product that we got 2 minutes ago. Nothing's been done to it. No intelligent thought behind it. Another night, guests asked for potatoes au gratin. Like, we don't have potatoes au gratin. They're like, oh, we don't say no. We don't say no. So I like start slicing the potatoes and I start making it. And the server comes back. They go, they want to know how long. I'm like, hour and a half. They go, well, they don't want to wait that long. Well, maybe they can order something on the fucking menu, like, come on. So anyway, I'm that kind of like was at my wit's end with that experience. A friend from high school calls me. He has an idea to open a food truck. He wants me to write a menu for him, just to hand over a menu. I was like, man, I don't really think that I'm at a skill set where I could deliver something that never needed to be tweaked or was just seasoned perfectly. Like, I'll be your partner though. And so we partnered 50-50. had a wild run in a year, from opening the food truck to dancing on the beach in Miami with $100,000 in a briefcase on Food Network. You know,
Right
a
on.
1 year period. We were such cocky motherfuckers too. Like, it was April. So we started in June of 2010. In April of 2011, I got a call from Food Network, and they're like, "Hey, we're doing our food truck race season 2. We want to know if you guys are interested." And I said, "What took you so long?" And I was like, "We're perfect for it. We're gonna win it." And then we did, and it was unreal. Like, the guy I partnered with was so perfect for TV because he was so pliable by the producers. They could really get him to say whatever soundbite they wanted, so they loved him. And I remember just like watching the show being like, "You asshole, you asshole." So anyway, right from there, I opened Playground, which was in November of 2011. So keep in mind, waiter in February of 2010, food truck owner in June of 2010, and restaurant owner November 2011.
Okay, that is so as someone that started their own business, and candidly, the restaurant business versus the car business, there's a whole lot of vetting in order to become a new car dealer. The manufacturer requires, networking capital issues, a whole lot of background, and if you're not checking those boxes, and candidly, I barely did at whatever I was, 34 years old, to become a car dealer. They probably looked at a few other ways and said, okay, this guy's got a lot of energy and he's hardworking, and well, let's see what we can do. And they were in a tough situation because they had a business going out in Tustin. So I was a little bit fortunate in that they probably skipped a step or two to allow me to become a dealer. That said, I still had to go through a series of I'll call it 100 different check sheets in order to get to that space. For a restaurateur, you
don't have to do anything.
It's a vision and it's a dream. So the idea of going from server to restaurateur in under a year and a half is
it's crazy.
It is beyond crazy. I mean, so what did you do? Take the proceeds from the winning and figure out how to do
my
this?
Proceeds, my end of day money was like $27,000 from that. There was 3 of us. We split it. And that's enough to buy like plates.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It was nothing, right?
Not even close.
And so my luckily my family was really dead set on funding it. I was reaching out to people that I knew that I thought would be interested. I was trying to do it myself, and my father was really concerned that I was going to be taken advantage of. And, and honestly, I wasn't prepared to do that part of the restaurant. I really am only talented at producing food, I think, and maybe storytelling.
Yeah, I would agree on both of those.
But the other things, questions you sent me, I feel like you should be prepared to be slightly disappointed, because on 2 fronts, I don't really think that we did the Santa Ana revitalization. I don't give us any credit for it. I look at the Crosby, I look at Gypsy Den and Lola Gas Bar and Chapter One, the people who showed us that we could go down there. I would have never in a million years looked at the spot that we took over, Morisco's Tampico, if it wasn't for the fact that those places were right up the street. Gotcha. You know what I mean? Never. Because it took me going down to those places on a Friday night to see the potential for what could happen,
Gotcha.
And obviously, like, maybe the focus of where Santa Ana has maybe like shifted over a little bit towards our area as opposed to Broadway and 4th. Maybe it's a little closer to 4th and Main, 4th and Spurgeon. But either way, I just want to make it clear, like, I think that those guys were the ones who made Santa Ana cool. And I think that we just came in at the perfect timing to be a part of that.
How did you pick Santa Ana? Just because by visiting those restaurants?
No. Great question. My dad has a huge mouth, and he was coaching Jewish women's volleyball, and his roommate was Ryan Chase, who happens to be the landlord of that property, who was coaching Jewish boys soccer. And my dad's like, "Oh, my son just won this. He wants to open a restaurant." And Ryan Chase was like, "Oh my God, we have the perfect spot. You got to come check it out. You got to come to Santa Ana." And frankly, for me, all that I was focused on was not working with the Irvine company. And honestly, like, you get a lot of negative things about them. But for me, the biggest thing was I didn't really know what kind of restaurant we wanted to run.
Right.
So the last thing I wanted to do was be set in some contract with these monsters where I had to be a certain thing. I had to be open certain hours. I had to, I didn't want to do that.
Yeah, beholden to some huge corporation just because you're trying to be a restaurateur.
Didn't want to do that, right?
Yep.
And I truly think that the biggest factor for our success is not my leadership, is not anything else. It's our partnership with our landlord.
Mhm.
Like the most important thing in a restaurant is to have a landlord who wants you there. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's the reality of it. He wanted us there. When we first were going in Playground, we started to get offers to go elsewhere. He said, how can I keep you here? And he said, can I build you an apartment? I'm like, what? And he built me a 2,500 square foot apartment.
That's right. You and your family live upstairs from the restaurant.
Totally beautiful custom apartment. As our family grew, he added a bedroom for us. You know what I mean? Like it just, in pandemic, I'm like, bro, just take us out back. Like, just put us out of our misery. Like we're dying. And he goes, nope, refuse. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, we can't pay rent. Don't pay it. I'm like, well, no, but we can't pay later.
Right.
You know what I mean? We can't defer. He goes, just don't pay. If you can't pay it, don't pay it. And I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Wow.
Right. And the real reason is that land has been in his family since 1906.
Wow.
And his great grandfather bought the Yost with the intention of this being like the heart of downtown Orange County. And so that's his vision. He's so focused on that. He doesn't actually care if this area's producing revenue in that way. He's got, plenty of things owned.
He's got other investments.
This is his passion project.
Right.
1% of what he has. And then 99% is what probably he cares about making money on.
Right. But
probably, I don't know.
But all I can tell you, so let's kind of take this. So funny story for anybody listening. So Julie and I, my wife Julie and I had gone to the Playground because somebody said, oh, and this had to have been probably sometime between 2011 and 2013, I think, where we had been with another couple. They're like, oh, this place is really cool. The kind of a neat vibe, and the menu's different, and you can kind of say, hey, look, we're in the mood for something that might be whatever, lamb, or we might be in the mood for something, and they create it, and it was, and the time that we went there, at this, whatever time that was, the 2012, 2013, it was an amazing experience. We were with probably 2 or 3 other couples. And I think we met you briefly, or maybe we didn't even meet you on that time, but I just remember thinking, wow, what a cool dining experience. And of course, my wife, Julie, for those of you that don't know, my wife, Julie's a chef. She's taught culinary and at a high school level. She had a catering company. So food is her passion. And so I remember us leaving that restaurant experience, and the whole way home, she's just talking about, oh my gosh, what a great vibe. I can't believe this exists in Santa Ana. It's so close to your office. This is awesome. We got to go all the time. And within 5 months or 6 months of that experience, this joker is in my dealership, and he's talking to a salesperson, he's talking to a sales manager who's
hold on. If we're going to tell that story, which I really think that we should, the way that we met, I actually don't think that that's 100% the timeline. I think that it happened probably 7 years ago from now.
Okay.
From here. So I think it was right around 2017. And I do want to tell it, if you don't mind, because what happened is, like I said, I had bought 3 cars from this dealership, and the third car somehow I got a 39-month lease.
Yeah.
And the other 2 were 36-month lease. So at the 36-month mark on the last car,
yep.
I get a car from another dealership because, frankly, listen, they traded me for dinner. Okay, so a full swap. You can't argue with that, right?
I still hold Danny McKenna in.
Okay,
I wasn't
going to name names, but yeah, that's who it was. Okay, so anyway, I show up at 36 months to drop, the Mazda CX-5 off, and I'm told, oh no, you have three more months on this. Like you owe us $6,000 if you want to drop this off today. And I'm like,
no, I think it was more like $1,500.
No, it was $6,000. It
was
$6,000.
Okay, all right.
So anyway, I'm like, okay. I look at the sales guy. I'm like, listen, bro, I got this restaurant, and we have 18 seats in this restaurant, and like honestly, a private party, it's 6,500. Like, let's wash this. Let's just. It's holiday season. It's coming up. Like, I have a barterable thing. People like to eat. They like to go out. So I'm with it. You'd be blown away the things I've traded for. And he's like, oh, I'm just a sales. I can't do that. I'm like, yo, is the owner here? And they're like, yeah, he is. He's just like out in the lot right now. So I just walk up to him and I'm like, hey, listen, like, I know this is crazy, but like, it's worked before. I'd be crazy not to try it again. I say, I'd love to just kind of pitch this idea to you. I'd love to, we ended up trading for 1,500, which is where that number came from. But I'm like, look, I'd love to just be able to, you know, work this out in some way. Why don't you? And like, oh, no. He goes, oh, I'm already an investor in a restaurant. If I want to have an event, I'll do it there. And he goes, but just so my wife won't kill me, what's the name of the place, right? And I say, oh, it's Playground. And he said, I direct quote, you motherfucker. Yeah, you know. And he's like, that's the one place that I couldn't say no to. So then you came down with another couple to Playground 2.0. That was where we did the like $1,500 wash, and then I think I paid for the rest. So I don't know. We worked it out. We worked it out.
So yeah, his version is very true. And it was it was the only restaurant in Orange County where in Southern California where I was like, come on, and so it's kind of a funny story. So Julie and I were we'd been to Hawaii definitely within the previous month. And we went to Mama's Fish House, right? And we had an epic meal. And one of the couples that was with us there joined us at this Playground 2.0 experience. And to this day, and so this was, you know, however many years ago, to this day, we say that we had two of the best meals we have ever had, dining experiences, period, in our entire lives, in our 50 some odd years that we've been on this planet, within a 30-day period of time. One from Mama's Fish House, which is kind of notorious in Hawaii as being probably the best restaurant in Hawaii, and two at your restaurant. And I think we would, as great as our experience was at Mama's, I think all four of us that went to that meal would say, yeah, Playground was every bit as good, if not better. And it was just great because you were involved in the experience, and we just had a blast. And we have since, you know, come back to Playground, now Detention, I don't know, 30 times. And it is because of you. And you're probably selling yourself short. Yes, you're a tremendous culinarian. But you know, the vibe that you create as a person in the environment with your staff and with the guests. I mean, if you're there for a great meal, you're certainly going to be delighted. But if you're there for a great dining experience, that is what I, you know, give you accolades for, because we have never once in the 2-3 dozen times we've eaten at your restaurant, never once had anything short of, man, that was something. And to your credit, you really provide that.
I mean, if I'm to, you know, attest to how that could be possible, it's that I'm a really bad business person. We're not like good at the business aspect of, you know, of turning this skill into profit, right? Or, you know, we're just in a spot where like we can do this, it can be fun, and we can just survive, you know? And so I don't know how good that is. Like when I look at, you know, my work in third person or whatnot, and I look at it and I go, well, people are walking away with this unbelievable experience, which is, you know, one reason why we wake up and why we're driven and whatnot. Yeah. But then again, we're doing it at just the most like standstill operation. And so as a business operator, as a leader, it feels like I'm doing this part wrong. You know what I mean? And I think that when you get better at something, it becomes harder to teach. You have such a wealth of experience at that thing that you know, like if I'm watching someone cook something, there was a period where if I'm 10 feet away, my guess was as good as theirs. But now I can be 20 feet away and I can say, that's fucked, or that's perfect, or needs more, you know? And it's just because you've just seen it so many times, right, that you know when it looks like this, not good. When it looks like this, perfect, you know? Right. And how do you teach someone that? You know, and I've said to people something like, how can you not see what I can see right now? You know? And so that makes me feel like I almost need to do the exact opposite of leading other people to just doing something that is so much more like I need to be almost direct to consumer in order to do it as best as I believe that I can, as opposed to when I find when I try to get a bigger team, the quality gets diluted such that it no longer has any desire to sell. Like when we were in playground days, we had 450 people crushing through on a Saturday night. You're just, the idea of perfect is so far from what we're doing. It's just damage limitation.
Right.
If you look out and you see 10 things not going as well as they should right now. Right. So for example, we have a culinary Bible, and the very first thing in the Bible says, items out of the fryer are seasoned immediately. The very first thing in the whole fucking Bible, right? And that is because I operate in the world where the little bit of bubbling oil on the outside of something as you're pulling it out of the fryer is our adhesive.
Gotcha.
If you just take a French fry that you fried 3 minutes ago and you throw salt at it, it's bouncing off.
Yep.
It's bouncing off, right? So if we're trying to season these things,
right,
you need to be
in the
salt, basket, bowl, So if you're working here and you just turn and you pull your basket up and you just put it on the rack and you turn back, we lose, right? That's the number one thing in the Bible. So when that happens, you go, hey, if I light this kid up right now, the whole line's going to stop.
Right.
The whole machine's going to stop. This guest, okay, they're going to get a better version of the dish than they were about to right now. But everyone else is going to suffer a 10-minute delay.
Yeah.
So what's the right thing to do? Do you know? What's the right thing to do? Let a dish go out at an 8 out of 10 when it could be a 10 to save face and keep the machine rolling, or insist on that one being perfect and then suffer.
So what do?
You let it happen because the machine can't be stopped at that volume. And that's why I got out of that volume.
Gotcha.
I that's why I couldn't sleep well at night, because all I could see were the pieces of beef that were not cooked properly, that you can't go back.
Right.
If a ribeye gets ordered 45 minutes ago and we slice into it and it's not right, it's over.
Yeah.
It's over. Like you can't. A new one is not 5 minutes away.
Right, exactly. It goes back to your potatoes au gratin.
Yeah.
You got to start from scratch.
And it's just like, and now, of course, the idea of even making money on this table is gone.
Yeah.
Because you can't blow a ribeye and then think you're going to profit on a foretop. You know.
Right.
So, what a nightmare, right?
Yeah.
And so anyway, I don't feel like a particularly good business person. I don't feel like a particularly good leader. I don't feel particularly responsible for the revitalization of Santa Ana. So the three big talking points of your...
But all I can tell you is every single person that I know that goes to your restaurant is never disappointed. And so let's walk through how you made that transition, right? So once upon a time, playground, 7 days a week,
Five.
What's that?
5 days.
5 days a week.
Yeah.
But busy, and maybe sacrificing. So you made that transition. I mean, the pandemic probably caused a bit of that. And I'd like you to, I'm going to take one step back in talking about your food and your travels. One thing that I really enjoy in talking about you when we're enjoying a meal at your restaurant is your ability to talk about, the different cultures that you've visited and you've learned from in bringing that into your food. So I'm going to take a little bit of a segue and I'll come back to Santa Ana and the business model. So walk us through how you infuse different cultures into your cooking.
So this comes back to that 2 years I lived in Sweden.
Yeah.
Right? Because I was 13 to 15. It's a pretty formative time for someone, right?
Time. Yep.
And I went as a 13-year-old, I'm going to use the term brainwashed politely, right? I was an American kid, and you grow up in America and you're told we're tight as fuck. We're the good guys. No, like America rocks,
right.
And I went to Sweden and I went to an international school, and I had kids in my class from Botswana and from Bangladesh and from Peru and from Russia and from Belgium and from Greece, and and here I am realizing that the world is pretty cool, and that the people who were bringing the most exciting things to the table were the people from all these places that you hear someone say something bad about and you don't understand. You
Right,
know,
right,
like I
sure.
remember being in 4th grade, like, oh, Jason Kim's house, I bet it smells like kimchi. And you're like,
Yeah.
oh, sounds negative.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
you're making that sound bad, but like, what does that mean? It doesn't mean anything to me.
Right.
You know? And when you go and realize that that's xenophobia,
Mhm.
you know,
Yep.
and that's actually just a sign of insecurity
Right,
and
for
a
sure.
sign of lack of knowledge and lack of experience and whatnot. Well, then all of a sudden you get pretty excited about learning more about other cultures. And
Mhm.
obviously the most delicious way to learn about other cultures is through food.
Sure.
And to start to compartmentalize the ingredients that are the backbone of a cuisine and start to have a picture in your head of someone says Japan and I go, okay, leeks, mushrooms, kelp,
Mhm.
you know, like just boom, boom, boom. And someone says France and I go, okay, great, chickens, potatoes, carrots, celery, you know, like you could just start to go through that and you start to be able to look at the world like that. And then you can start to see where they overlap
Mhm.
and you can see where they don't. And you go, wow, it's amazing that these countries are all big eggplant, tomato, red pepper countries.
Yep.
And look at Avjar in Croatia and this spread from this area. And look at the differences. Just one has caraway, one has cumin. You start to get to look at the world like that. It starts to like kind of come into place a little bit. That's just the puzzle.
Yeah, you don't see a map. You see
Flavor.
you know,
Exactly.
You see flavors.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I see dishes. I see bites, you know, all over the place and the textures that you would get and what the table would look like and what a meal would be like. And we did a dinner once a month for like the first 8 years of Playground 2.0, which by the way, now is called Trust to anyone who's watching it. And it was called Wanderlust. And it was just like Wanderlust Philippines, Wanderlust Indonesia, Wanderlust Ethiopia, Wanderlust, you know, and we just fucking ran through the gamut of all the countries. And, you know, we just sat there and we tried to put a menu together that would be indicative of how you would eat in those places. And it was a really fun experience for us to go through it and to force ourselves to like really think like that. And, you know, I'm not really into fusion. You know, if I was coming from two cultures, you know, Mexican and Korean,
Right.
if that's what I'm coming from, I don't think it's crazy for me to see the you know, that kimchi is just like an unblended salsa and, you know what I mean? And like a lettuce wrap and a tortilla, or, you know, they're not that different, you know? And you know, that's like the Roy Choi Kogi story,
Yeah.
right? That's fusion that is like his life story. My life story involves none of those things as far as things that I didn't go seek out myself. You know, none of those things happened to me.
Right.
You know, so growing up, like the food that I had was as boring, white, American, unseasoned as possible. You know, so I have nothing from my background that I can sit there and go, this is what you need to be eating.
Right. This is the Quinn dish.
And because I'm almost like cuisineless, you know? And so because of that, I've found that the same way that I don't now really associate with being American. I think about being from Earth. You know, I'm a human from Earth. I'm not an American from America. You know what I mean? Like that's the way I look at it. And so if I don't have like an attachment to this cuisine, well, all of a sudden I kind of become in a spot where like I'm an orphan and anything can kind of be like, you know, something that I can relate to or that I want to explore. And I'm not ever trying to like really make something mine. You know, I want to say, hey, this is a really cool thing that they do in Indonesia.
Right, you're paying homage to the culture,
that's my goal, right? Is to sit there and say, I've looked the places that maybe you won't, and this is what I saw, and this is what I think is cool. And like I went to Singapore, and you know, how many dishes in Asia, savory dishes in Asia, can you think of that have cream in them?
I can't.
I mean, it's really hard.
Right.
It's really hard to think of a dish that anyone in Asia is just going, yep, and then now we just add cream. Okay, Asia's a rough spot because India's in Asia, lots of cream.
Yeah.
But other than India, you're going to struggle, I think, to find this, right? Maybe in some of the northern Mongolia areas where maybe a little bit more dairy heavy, you know, any of those things. But either way, I was in Singapore and I had this creamy sambal prawns. And I'm like, it's literally just like prawns braised in cream with sambal, spicy garlic chili paste. And it was so good. And I'm sitting there going like, this is not where this should be.
Oh,
you know, it's not.
Yeah.
And when you look into it, you find out that there's this area called the Perankan Strait. And in the Perankan Strait are like 13 different cultures that really don't have anywhere else in the world to go. And they just kind of all live there together. And some of them are from India. And at some point, someone probably was like, oh, I do this shrimp and sambal thing. And the Indian guy's like, well, we could put cream in it. That's what I do. And so, you know, like that's not So if I make that dish, I want to make, I'm not the one who thought to put cream and sambal and shrimp together and braise it. Like, I was lucky enough to walk into a place called Clay Pot Valley in Singapore, and that's what they served me for lunch. And it was so goddamn good. I went back 36 hours later to eat it again, you know?
And when you add something like that to your menu and we're chatting with you, it's fun because what you share is, hey, look, I was able to experience this in Singapore. I was able to experience this in Thailand. I was able to experience this in Japan, and I am able to bring that culture to you. And it's not saying, hey, I tried to switch it up by doing the following. It's I'm paying homage to this by sharing this with you.
Yeah. I've never like felt less creative as a chef that I do right now. I feel more like I'm wanting to tell those stories, right? Like I really want to do it right by those people, right? Like nothing seems worse than like, oh, this is Korean fried chicken, and like I don't really know why it's good, but it's good, you know, like you know, like to not have a connection to it and then be serving it is a very weird thing to do.
Yep.
And I think that to be super connected to it, or to be just thirsty for more knowledge or more experience or more authenticity,
right,
you know, that's what I want to do, right? I'm not looking for anyone to sit there and be like, oh, this is like such a unique thing that you did. I'm like, no. I'm just trying to tell this story.
Well, so I'll bring it back to the other, but to anybody listening, know this: Jason is underselling himself, because the dishes that we experience, be it a tribute to Singapore or be it a tribute to Korea, they're one of a kind in my mind, because I haven't traveled there and experienced those things. So when we dine, you know, the looks on people's faces are all that you need to see, which is, wow, this blew me away.
I also think that we have a very distinct advantage in our operation to have, in every experience that we're talking about here, I've usually been the one telling you about what you're about to eat.
That's true.
Right? And we're almost in a spot where if you had the same exact dish, no story, no explanation, just dropped in front of you and walked away, you're not going to have that same experience. You might say, well, this is good, but to connect it and have someone understand why they're eating something, this is what my favorite thing to say. People come in, they go, what do you recommend? And I go, well, I took all the possible combinations of food in the known universe and I took them down into this one page. This is what I recommend. Something from this page, because that's what I did, right?
Right.
Because like all the things were available.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is what I chose to put on the menu today.
This is what rocks.
These are the things I recommend.
Yeah, it's so let's talk about how you made that transition from playground to detention and trust, and I know that, you know, part of that was pandemic related and afterwards, and so I think that a lot of people, you know, it's funny. I was even talking to a handful of our teammates. You know, Jim Feinstein and his wife Luz go to your restaurant all the time. They love it. We love it. But there's a little bit of unknown as to, okay, hey, playground was there, but it's in the same spot. It's detention. Walk us through the logic and what happened there.
What you're expressing right now is that one of the things that I'm most frustrated with in my own life, because of course it makes sense to me, but to the just the people out there, we must seem like the weirdest fucking people on the planet. But basically, after, you know, our first 3-4 years at Playground, we were so lucky to have a truly world-class service staff of people who just totally understood what we were trying to do. And, you know, I mean, you have some employees that have been here for a very long time, but you also know that maybe this is more of a real career being in this industry than it is being a server. But like, we had pretty temporary spots in people's lives. Like, to have someone for 10 years in the restaurant's a wild thing, right? So at around year 8, I kind of start to look out in the dining room and I see trainers that weren't trained by day one people.
Gotcha.
You know, and I'm going, okay, we've lost some of that ethos. Like, I'm watching people do things that are not cool.
Yeah.
You know, that are not the way that I want to run the place.
Right.
And I'm realizing that like we kind of lost that magic. And I would look out into the dining room and I would see unbelievable, valuable regulars, people I genuinely love, who've been here 200 times.
Right.
And the idea that on your 200th time, somebody would walk up and go, hi, welcome to Playground. My name's Jonathan. We're a new American small plates restaurant. We recommend sharing. It's like, fuck you, man. I've been here
no
way
kidding.
more than you.
I can tell you the menu better than you can, Jonathan.
Exactly, right? So the risk of that became like way too high, you know, like, and like I said, I'm a terrible business person. I don't really care about money. I just want to have my lifestyle.
Right.
And if, and like, as long as that's okay, then whatever, right? Then
Right.
I'm living, you know? I realized that I didn't have the energy to retrain. You know, I didn't have the energy to go, okay, no, anybody doesn't want to get on board, kick rocks. We're starting over from the bottom. Here's how we do things. Because I was already on the other side.
Right.
I was at Playground 2.0. I had my 36 guests tonight that I was dealing with. And then Playground's on the other side, and that had its 400 people it was dealing with.
Right.
So just like the machine was going,
Right.
you know, to stop it was crazy.
Yep.
But we started, you know, we got into pandemic, and then even the employees who were good started to just kind of dissipate.
Right.
I mean, we went from a very serious business to like a, let's just all get through this together, you know, and things that didn't fly, like, are going to fly now. Like uniforms, we don't care anymore. Wear whatever you want. And, you know, whatever, right? Like if you need to have a beer during the day, like it's okay. Like we're just surviving this weird experience. And, you know, light at the end of the tunnel's there. And here we are, like on the other end of the pandemic. And I'm going, man, we have a skeleton crew of dickheads, you know, of basically a bunch of people that I wasn't ready to back,
Right.
you know, that I wasn't ready to send out to John Patterson
Right.
and go, this guy's going to have as good of a time as he's always had,
Right.
you know? So then what are you doing? You know, you lose every good salesperson and you just have literally everyone just day one, they don't know dick about a car, and you're sending them out to the same people who you've been dealing with for 20 years. Like, you're not going to have that.
No way, no way.
You're not going to have it. So when you look at your situation and that's the only option on the table, you go, great, well, we're shutting down, right? Like, what's the point?
If I can't provide the experience
Then
that I know that I could, why bother?
Why bother? If you know right now it's going to be a 6 out of 10 in comparison at best case, shut it down, you know? Especially when you worked so hard to build it.
Right.
Owning 70% of something is better than 100% of nothing.
Right.
So go ahead. You know, I can still live upstairs. You guys run the business. It'd be cool. So, but you can't take my name.
Right.
So Playground to Detention. Detention ran, and, you know, I love the people that were involved in Detention, but at the end of the day, Detention was a business that was built on the quality of life for the staff as the number one thing.
Okay.
And I think quality of staff can be third, but quality of guest is first. Like that.
The experience.
It's just an end of conversation.
Right.
Guest experience has to be the best. And if it's not, then it doesn't matter.
Then why are you doing it?
Why are you doing it? And I get it. People who've been there for a decade wanted to make good salaries and wanted to be set and comfortable, and, you know, they wanted to take a run at that, and they wanted people to have better hours.
Sure.
You know what I mean? I get it. It's very
Yep.
noble. Like, I'm not, like I said, I'm not saying employees should be 10th, you know? I'm just saying guests have to be first, especially in hospitality
Right. For sure.
industry. You know, it's just like in medicine, patients have to, well, you know, in theory, right? Patients have to come first. Like, these are the people whose lives are on the line. And so for us, you know, that it had to be the case. And so within a year, it was also, I mean, it was a tough year. Our streak got totally ruined by the streetcar. Tough year, didn't really do all that well. And, you know, we put a little bit of pressure, and the result was like, okay, well, we'll just stop, you know? So then now all of a sudden my quality of life comes into question. I've got a space below me. I got to try to make it work. I'm in no desire to train 50 people.
Right.
So we got to do less people. We got to have a small staff. We got to do less guests. How are you going to make up for less guests? Well, each guest got to pay a little more money.
Yep.
Right. And you got to, you know, and we got to know you're coming. And, you know, if we're going to be sitting there on a Wednesday night ready to do wonderful service for anywhere from 11 to 60 people, like, you know, you got to be prepared to pay for us to be staffed for 60.
For sure.
And, you know, if you don't want to come, thank you very much. And, you know, you get to be a part of it. And that's the way that we did it. And honestly, like, we definitely rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, which, I mean, you know, you're not doing something right if you don't.
Right.
But I think that everyone who has came in and asked the questions and heard about why, like, it sounds like we did this to be elitist or exclusive, like a members only thing. It's really the opposite. We just need to know that you're coming. We need you to be linked. We need to be in bed together,
right,
for us to be able to operate. And the perks that we can give for knowing you're coming back are pretty special, like having a card on file. and being able to just walk out when you're done.
Yep.
If you bring a friend who
absolutely.
wants to pay and you don't want them to, they're not going to get to, you know, these are fun perks that we get to offer in this situation. Also, my favorite story about it, I had these two gentlemen, and they first time they visited, and they ordered 3 dishes from me. They were all kind of starters in my head, 3 things that I would send you all at once. I would send you all at once, and I send them all at once, and they drop, and I take a walk, and they're untouched, and I take another lap, and they're untouched, and I go, okay, what's up?
Yeah.
Right? Like normal server probably just lets it go.
Yeah.
And waits till they leave, and
so
gets a new table. I go, so what's up? They go, honestly, I'm like, yes, we're going to see each other monthly in perpetuity. Honestly, tell me what's going on. And they go, we just like to eat slow. We just like kind of one dish at a time. And then we kind of like to get cleared and then have the next one. And I go, easy, right? And we literally just change their name in the printer to slow, their names, slow food, one at a time.
Yep.
And so every time the ticket pops up, it's in there, right? Yep. So like that's like not worth doing if we'll never see you again.
For sure.
Right? It's not just not worth doing anything like that.
Yep.
It doesn't help you if we remember and you never come back. It doesn't help us if we remember and you never come
Without
back.
a doubt.
But if we know we're going to see you, it's a remarkably easy way to give you the service that you want, that's custom to you.
For sure.
And so being ready for the quirks of any of the 4 million people within an hour drive of here is an insane proposition.
Yeah, for sure.
But being ready for the quirks of 900 people that you see on a monthly basis, it's remarkably feasible.
Yeah, what makes good sense. So you right now are open 4 days a week, right? It's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, right? Yep. And so in doing that, what you have said to your team, what you have said to your guests is, hey, look, if you want to be dining out on Sunday, Monday, or Tuesday night, knock yourself out. But for us, we're able to provide a consistent, great experience with the same servers that know who you are, that will ensure that the dining experience is what you expect. And by doing that 4 days a week, you're able to make sure that your staff is dialed. You're able to create a profession for those staff, because in the serving business, in the hospitality business, it's transient by nature. A lot of people did exactly what you do. They wait tables for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and then they do that until the next thing comes up. What you've done is, by creating this schedule, by creating this environment, you're able to create, career teammates.
See, that's the goal, right? But like the sad thing is that it's the ceiling for compensation in our space is so low. New York Times had an article about it recently that was really damning to our industry. And that basically restaurants in New York City are selling like a chicken leg for $40, and they're not making money at $40, and the guest isn't having a good time at $40. So what are we doing?
Yeah.
What are we doing here? Restaurant's not making money, guest isn't happy.
Lose.
Yeah, everyone's losing. Everyone's losing, right? And with labor going up, with the cost of living in Orange County is such that you try to pay your people a living wage, and that's what happened in the Detention 1.0 era, right? Everyone was trying to be paid really well. We wanted to make the big boy move, and it's just, we realized it's not possible. People aren't willing to pay what it costs to dine and pay staff properly. Okay. It's just not.
So what's the solution?
The solution is honestly less employees, less guests, and just be full every night and do it. Trust is frankly, or what was formerly Playground 2.0 is the solution. You can do that with 3 people. You can serve 36 guests a night.
That's right. You can do 18 times 2.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And what's even more amazing about that? It's direct to consumer. It's exactly what I was talking about.
Yeah.
It's zero middlemen. Zero middlemen.
And just, in that formula, right? I've done the old Playground 2.0, the now Trust, I don't know, maybe a half dozen times. That's a profitable business venture in that scenario.
I mean, it's an incredibly profitable business if you can get in a spot where you can be utilizing 100% of what you're buying. Because for us right now, what's amazing is that both sides of the restaurant produce trim for the other side.
Oh, gotcha.
You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
absolutely, yeah.
You want to use the center cut top loin of the fish for one side. Okay, well then now the belly gets used on the other side.
Yep, yeah.
You know,
That's good.
and obviously without the other place for it, you just have to get, you just have to make sure you're utilizing everything. But if you were, then yeah, that's actually the thing that I feel the worst about, is that I know that if I'm just worried about me, the answer is very easy for how I succeed.
Right.
Fire everybody, do it myself.
Yep.
Right?
You're a one-man show or a three-man show.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah.
But the sad thing is I subscribe to this, like, you're not rich, you're not successful unless you pull people up with you.
Yeah, you bring them up.
You know what I mean? Like, so and I always have wanted to be the guy who could bring everybody up.
Yeah.
Whether or not I'm capable of it's a different story, but I've always wanted to be that guy, which is why I'm trying, which is why we're doing the business this way.
Right.
But it is every time that we have like a struggle or like a weird period or whatever, I go, all right, well, I'm not the one who's in danger. And that's what makes me sad about it. You know what I mean? Like, it's comforting at one point to be like, all right, well, the worst case scenario is I have to fire people. The best case scenario is I'm able to keep it together and keep it moving. I just fear for the overall future of the restaurant industry in general.
Well, I just for you, I can tell you this much. I know in calendar year 2025, John and Julie Patterson have already, mapped out, well, we'll see you once between now and the end of the year. And then we'll see you, half a dozen or more times throughout 2025. And, and my prayer for you is that, that this model is ideal, because, whether you take credit for it or not, I think a lot of us would say, whether you are the formative piece of that Santa Ana food scene being what it is today, you're certainly a significant part of it, whether you take credit for it or not. I don't know that anyone that wouldn't give you some credit for it. And that's inspiring. And, you're a colorful dude, but you're a humble dude. And that's what I see as a driven leader. It's somebody that is willing to not just be an inventor, but be an innovator. How can you innovate the space? How can you reinvent yourself? How can you reinvent your team? How can you create an experience that is amazing for your teammates and amazing for your guests? And we are those people, and we are grateful for it.
Well, without people willing to come and play with our rules, we would have a very rough life.
Before I cut you loose, any thoughts for anybody listening beyond what we've chatted about?
Not really. I'm in a weird spot in life. I've got an 8-year-old. I've got a 5-year-old. It's just like routine in that spot, and I'm wrestling with this concept that I love and the insane feasibility of trying, or the lack of feasibility of really making it happen. Without someone else that had a proven model of this, we're really just flying by the seat of our pants doing it. And part of me wonders if there's a time limit that people will continue to want to do it, right? Because if you're having guests that are coming 12 times a year, right, which is what our average is, you have guests coming 12 times a year. How many times can you continue to kind of want to go have a same but different? There's, you know what I mean? So because even if we're right now at the 22-month mark, and we're definitely concerningly slower than we were last year at this exact same point. Okay. So I can't help but sit there and just ponder as to why that could be the case. And I do think it's a couple things. I think that the average American is not super happy, just not content in the way that we kind of need to be to seek time with others. I think that the social media doom scrolling can it can really be a problem. I find myself saying I should get off this, and then it's an hour later and I'm still there.
I thank God every day that I do not do Instagram.
Wow,
or Facebook.
so lucky. You're so lucky, because the thing is that there is good stuff on there.
Oh, sure.
But there's so much just useless garbage as well that sifting through it is such a brutal thing. But part of me wonders where my life would be without some of the amazing things I've discovered through it.
For sure. I mean, especially in your world, and you could probably stumble upon some, amazing recipes.
Amazing food recipes and ideas, street food vendors in parts of the world just executing with the most unbelievable technique and expertise. I watched a guy the other day pull a rotisserie chicken, completely turn it in like an inch and a half of rendered chicken fat at the bottom of the rotisserie, put it on a cutting board, and with like 5 pulls of scissors, completely debone the thing and present it perfectly in a box and just put it with it. Go. I'm like, wow.
How did that happen?
No, well, you see exactly how you go, wow, I'm never looking at a rotisserie chicken and going, let me just use these scissors and I'll just pull all the fucking bones out. You know what I mean? Like I'm never looking at it like that, and it's a really cool thing. But anyway, I think that there's a very real desire to just kind of stay home, and obviously in a business that's really revolving around people coming out. Yeah. That's an alarming thing. The trends are not in the direction that are favorable for our industry, and it's not just within our building. Well,
but the one thing that you do have in Orange County is you have a massive amount of affluence that exists within this, 4 million people that are, Orange County and Orange County adjacent. And I wonder if there is a piece that is more personalized where, somebody like, whatever, us, and we said, hey, Jason, invade our house for, a birthday event, and I mean
we do that too. We do that too. I mean, like especially in December is a huge month for it, and that's the thing as well. Like that's what you just said is kind of exactly what I'm getting at. Instead of your instinct being we could have a great night out at your restaurant, the instinct was would be great to have you come to us because I think I don't know about anyone else, but during the pandemic, I took the money that I usually spent on traveling, that I usually spent on going out, and I spent it on making our house a better place to be.
You and 90% of the U.S. population.
So now, I love my house, right? I want to be there. When I'm there, I feel like I'm like, oh, I'm not at work. Yeah, I've earned my time to be at this place that I enjoy being. Yeah. So like I don't really want to leave. And so I can't be the only one that feels that way.
You're not, for sure. But I mean, and who knows? Maybe that is a Detention 2.0 or 3.0 or something like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's like I said, I know that at the end of the day, if whatever happens with my business, the ability to go into the trust room and cook for 36 people a night is always on the table. And that is one of the best jobs in the entire culinary world. Agreed. So knowing that you're like plan B is like as good as it gets makes it easy to do plan A with like reckless abandon.
And oh, by the way, your commute to work is about
18 steps.
18. I was going to say about 20 steps.
Yeah.
So, hey, all I can say is thank you. I mean, you've got a busy schedule and you got a busy day in front of you and a busy night in front of you and a busy holiday season going on, and to take the time to share your story with us is it's been great. And as I shared with you before we got on, I love this because I get a chance to learn more about people that I really enjoy and care about. And I get to learn about your leadership style, and I get to learn about your life experience. And for me, it's super rewarding. And as I say over and over again, leadership is defined as a person of influence, and whether you care to take credit for it or not, you have a tremendous amount of influence in a lot of people that just love to spend time with you. So thank you for your time.
Yeah, of course. Thanks. Pleasure being here. I'd love to just add one tiny thing on like that style of management or whatnot. I find if you can hire the right person and just let them do their job, and the people, if you hire a great person and you micromanage them, they're not going to be great for you. Yeah. And I think that we've gotten very lucky. Like I don't personally drink. I mean, I'll have a sip. It's just not a thing that I enjoy. And so how do I hire a bartender? Like their good cocktail doesn't taste good to me. Right. And it tastes good to you. My opinion's not a good one. It's not a good one. So you find someone who you believe in and you just go, you do it. And just so you know, if their cocktails are bad, we're going to find out in 15 minutes. Like it's going to be so quick. Yeah. So if you're not sure,
the cause and effect is very obvious.
Yeah. If you're not sure, don't take this job. But if you're confident and you know that you can knock this out of the park and you want to go for it and do it the best you can, this is the place.
That's awesome. Well, it's empowering your people, which is awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate you. And I'm sure that between now and the end of the year, you're going to be a little bit crazy busy. So the fact that you took the time out to spend with us, I appreciate you.
Yeah, of course. Pleasure to be here.
Thanks, bud.
Thanks.
Take care. Thank you for listening to the Driven Leader podcast. And I am so fortunate to have had Jason Quinn, the owner of Detention here in Santa Ana, join us. Whether he takes credit for it or not, I think so many people would credit him with a portion of the revitalization of the culinary scene in Santa Ana and really throughout Orange County. And the stories that he was able to share from family early on, spending time overseas, and the travels that he has brought into his culinary space, and his ability to revolutionize what he has done in the culinary business has been amazing. So if you haven't been to Playground, now Detention, or Trust now, I suggest you do it, because it's certainly been inspiring to all of us that have attended. And if you like what you hear, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and join us at the next Driven Leaders podcast. Make it a great day.